Good morning, everyone. The title of my talk is I Can't Believe I Did That or Said That, and then there's 3 dots and it says, oh yes, I can, because most of us, after we do something, if you take a couple of minutes, you think, oh, well, that was really bad, but yeah, that was pretty typical of what I would do. So that's kind of how this all started, and I'm glad to see you all here. And today's talk is about ego, and I've been kind of mushing this around in my head a lot and thinking about it. And so it's a talk about how ego can get in the way of a really terrific short life on Earth. So it's always hard to get a talk going, and the one way I think about starting it is often with a quote or a joke or a definition. Today you get a definition, and the only reason you get a definition is because I couldn't find a good joke about the ego. But if anybody has it, Chuck, you can share it during the talk back. Ego. So the dictionary definition of the ego is the part of you that defines itself as a personality, separates itself from the outside world, and considers itself as a separate entity from the rest of nature and the cosmos. Then, if you go on the other side, we have this little thing called the 7th principle, the UU 7th principle, which states that we should have respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Well, this interdependent web thing puts this huge road bump into my awesome ego trip, because I am very egotistical. I'm a firstborn child, and for some reason I got the idea that the world revolved around me. For some reason, I don't know why. But this principle, the UU principle, is pretty good. The first step, I think, is that we have to recognize this interdependent web thing, and as we go through talkback, I think we all have got, we've kind of figured that out, we understand it, and we're kind of like, yeah, we get this. But do we live like we believe in the existence of this interdependent web? Personally, I have to admit the answer is no. Once again, striving to be the center of the world is really kind of my modus operandi, and you know, really feeling like every moment of the day or everything that I do, that it's going to have an effect on something else, sometimes comes up after the fact, or mostly does, but it's difficult to think before I say something or think before I do something because of the interdependent web or whatever, like what is this going to accomplish, and think about it down the road. Sometimes, no, most of the time I don't do that, and my actions often say, no, I'm number one and I don't care. Sorry about that, guys. But I asked, I said, why do people, or why do I seem to have so much trouble with me, mine, and ours? So mostly this talks about me and my issues that I've been dealing with lately, and I hope it helps you somewhere as we go along. So here we go. Self-acceptance and self-worth is a part, I think, of taming down that ego, or self, or me, or whatever term you choose. I'm a recovering Baptist, and so it is really difficult not to fall back on those old teachings. I am not a wretch, like the you know, Amazing Grace loves to tell you. But I'm not awesome either. So I'm somewhere in between. I'm a big mess of a bunch of good, bad lumped together. Unfortunately, humans, or I, or whatever, human nature seems to swerve to extremes. I don't know, I don't like the word fine, but maybe that's more accurate. We have a tendency to go, oh, that's awful, that's terrible, or we go, oh, that's awesome, that's wonderful. But most things are kind of right there in the middle. They aren't real exciting, they're fine, they're good, that's good. I don't like to categorize things like that. When I look out and I put this idea, this concept to the test on the world, it's easier to see this good, bad stuff very clearly as I'm looking out. Unfortunately, when I look at my own actions in the same way, you know, when you bring it back to yourself, sometimes it's really hard to see clearly. And once again, try to be thoughtful about your actions and how this is going to snowball down the road. This thought process, this occasionally works, but unfortunately, as I've repeated, not too often. But trying not to condemn myself when I have screwed up or done something that didn't go so well, or on the other hand, congratulate myself when I have been awesome in my mind, is also another step toward my goal. Trying to realize that I'm trying not to clump my actions into good or bad categories and just making my actions instead of categorizing. I try not to beat myself up over past actions and try not to be sanctimonious over deeds that are good. I'm striving to be aware of my actions. That's it. Okay. This is really redundant. I need to move on. Okay. Okay. We make up when we mess up or we really do something bad. I have a tendency, and people I think have a tendency to make up stories, and they're generally not accurate. We cannot change what happened. Life goes on. It's a waste of valuable time to live the oh no moments, and I got an expert at those oh no moments. And amazingly, they seem to come up 20 years later. I don't know why the wonderful moments don't come up. It's the, I can't believe I did that, and it happened 10 years ago, you know, and I don't know why these things keep churning up. I haven't figured that one out either. But once that merry-go-round starts, you've got to stop it, because we are all on that same stinking merry-go-round. You know, I can't say this is only about me. I suspect that everybody has these oh my gosh moments every once in a while and beats themselves up. So I think we're all on the same merry-go-round, and let's step back, realize that we are just what we are. We're a part of the whole kit and caboodle mess. It's called the world, people, whatever. So I try not to get tied up with it, and I found an interesting quote by Dean Acheson. This is what you shouldn't do. Don't get tied up in the me. The great corrupter of public man is the ego. Looking at the mirror distracts one's attention from the problem. A lot of times we're looking at us, that's all me, but it's distracting. Realize that just getting all involved in yourself is it can be taken to, oh, it's all about me. That can be taken and be hurtful to the world. So try to look a little bit more lovingly in the mirror, and the other slash is try to see yourself clearly as well. Another trap that I have fallen into, and I have plenty of traps that I fall into, is not living in the here and now. I touched on that a little bit earlier, or Doug touched on it too. So much of this is so obvious, it seems at times that I really should have gotten it by now, but I haven't. I haven't figured out why it is so hard to live in the moment. So much time is spent looking backwards in the thought, if only I had done it some other way, or looking forward as in tomorrow when, or this, and you end up totally losing right now. Don't each and every one of us have enough on our plate right now? Why do I do stuff and look into the past and look into the future? There's a bemoaning or a dream longing, or it's like, really, come on, let's move on. And I have to keep telling myself, besides, I'm just making up stories about the past and the future. How much control do I really have over my life? My ego tells me I'm in control. Society tells me I'm in control. I love the concept of the old Frank Sinatra song, I Did It My Way. I do like Invictus by Henley, that's I am the master of my fate, the captain of my souls. Yeah, well, that's really nice, but yeah, when I sit back, I guess that wasn't very you. That's the spit pit. Okay, but when you sit back and examine life, you realize that at best, you have a small amount of control, and probably, I almost hate to say it, you may have no control at all. We're not real sure where that line comes, but I would, on a good day, I might have a little control, but mostly I think I'm kind of flying blind out there. I want to plan out my future, and I want to be in the driver's seat. Well, okay, I should clarify that. Mostly I want to be in the driver's seat unless something's going bad, and then I want Doug to be in the driver's seat. But that is not really life. That is some ego-driven illusion that I have control of things. Okay? I stop and I look at the world. I try to look at the world as it really is. We have no control over our health. You know, we're continually told, eat healthy and you will live longer. What about the E. coli thing on the fresh spinach? Yeah, they killed people and they're eating fresh spinach, and what happens if you choke on your bean sprout and die? You know, there are no guarantees. Sure, eat well, and you know, you might live longer. We've all heard about that 110-year-old man or lady who smoked like a chimney for their whole life, or drank a shot of whiskey, you know, and you know, what's with them, okay? There are no guarantees, are there? That was a rhetorical question. You know what? We have even these survivalists that think they've got it all like lined up and everything. They have a fix-it plan for everything that can go wrong when the world goes kapooey. You know what? I sort of got ranting on this, sorry, but it's like, what happens when lightning comes out of the sky and kills you or burns down your shed with all your supply equipment, survival equipment in it? What happens when the earth opens up and swallows you? No, my point, I know this is getting a little dark, you know. It's a little dark, you know. My last point was I have to add another one. What happens when you have your wood pile all ready and you trip over it, you bump your head, and you're eaten by your starving dogs? Okay? Now, and you know what? I'm going to add that all the money in the world won't stop any of this stuff happening. Okay? So, really, we have to let go and start living this minute to the fullest. And a lot of this idea that we can waylay or control a lot of this stuff, it's an ego-driven thing that I have control. And I want to point out, make plans. That's great. But the thing is, when we make plans and we depend on them and grasp them, and it has to be like this, that's where things get a little out of whack. I plant seeds every spring in my garden with hopes of having my little veggies come up in the summer. Life goes wrong when that dream gets held too tightly. It needs to be okay if rot comes on the peas or the birds eat all the blueberries. Yeah, it's disappointing, but it's not the end of the world. So it's like, you know, when I'm grasping and it seems like the end of the world, that's my clue to like, okay, lighten up, it doesn't matter that much. The world still rotates tomorrow, the sun will come up. All of our plans are all of our plans are what they really are. Ways to protect ourselves from the scary world around us. When we learn or try to learn how to stop holding onto our plans so tightly, we will see a new world out there. It will make you more content in the long run if we stop grasping to this illusion. Here's another slap to our ever-present oversized egos. Henry Miller once said, "If there is any peace, it will come through being, not knowing." This can be used for countries, communities, as well as individuals. Since I am currently working on Jancy, I'll stick to the individual knowing. Knowing that you are right about anything is a dangerous area to be in. When we hold tight to the truth, that truth is in capital letters, we will stagnate. I kind of like the term, the truth as we know it. It might be better if I go the truth as I see it right now. The second a person digs in and builds this fortress around their little truth, they're in trouble. And you know what else is in trouble? The world as a whole is in trouble. Don't lose sight that we're part of this whole world. And these little fortresses cause problems. We love to build fortresses. I like to build fortresses. But instead, we should be building bridges. Once again, it's scary to build bridges. Doug pointed this out about Tullahoma, but it's other things. The barbarians might get in, oh no, if we build the bridge. It's better to build a fortress. The barbarians will stay out. Fortresses are just another illusion, people. It's not going to work because the barbarians have ladders and battering ramps. I've been watching this Viking thing lately. They get in. They will get in. The isolation of knowing blocks us off from new ideas and thoughts. Maybe that guy next to us really has some good ideas if we would just take the time to listen. Maybe this guy is a real kook in their crappy ideas, but we took the time to listen and weigh out his ideas. Hey, maybe one day he'll even listen to our ideas and change. We are only able to change ourselves, and everyone else changes themselves. We are better people when we listen. I know it's a shocking thing to tell you, but we all can be wrong. So, and this whole talk could be wrong, so, but anyway. My daughter and I were listening to this podcast the other day, and I don't for the life of me know who this poor guy was, but anyway, his whole point was how much more freeing and exciting the world is when there's no hard truth. Casey, I know where are you, Casey? 1 and 1 equals 2. Don't give me that. I'm talking about the big truth stuff, okay? Okay. It can be more freeing and an exciting world when there are no hard truths. The point is that truth is so tightly tied to language, perspective, culture. How can we know the truth? Fundamentalists of all religions really do have it right. God is the only one who can know truth. You know, if you start thinking along those lines, it is mandatory that their holy books are written by God and that they are flawless without question. Of course, we're UUs, and so most of us can't rely on that. But this is an interesting key point. You can't go against something that came from God. Okay? This is the other side. This is another side of knowing the truth. Be alert when somebody tells you they know the truth. There's a line in the Talmud that says, we do not see things as they are, we see them as we are. And I think I'm very guilty of that, and I think that scrapes away a whole lot of stuff. Bridges have a place in our lives and can help us work together, but everything we see and hear needs to be put through a filter and examined carefully. There's a Buddhist saying, do not look at the teacher pointing at the moon. The ideas are the important point, not the teachers. Truth should be subject to change. If it is held too tightly and not allowed to be examined because of fear or ego, it will cause us to live a stagnant, unfulfilled life. My final suggestion came from my sister, who heard this toast at a party, and the toast went, may you always have enough. Me, myself, and I generally want enough. Me, myself, and I generally want more than enough, because you never know what's coming down the road. And yes, we're once again facing that darn ego. You know, never know what's coming down the road. Maybe we should have a little bit stashed. This thought pattern, once again, leads to that grasping and holding tight to my stuff and eyeballing your stuff as well to try to get it from my stuff, okay? What a great world we have, because most of us are haves, you know? The trouble with having is that we unfortunately never seem to have enough. We're always worried somebody might come along and take our stuff. I personally have been working on this issue for a long time, and no matter how long I work on it, the ugliness of selfishness raises its ugly head. I hope the grasping is becoming less and less, but I sure have this pattern that keeps showing up, and it's like I have to tap it down. There's an interesting story, it's a Tibetan story about a guy named Geshe Ben. I came across him in some of my readings, and he's a monk. And I think he is sort of a comical guy that teaches morals. I think that's how the Tibetans would view this person. Anyway, Geshe Ben is visiting a monastery, and it's mealtime. He is at the far end of the table and sees that there's yogurt being served. Oh, this is his favorite thing, yogurt. He can feel the creamy tartness tingle on his taste buds. But look at those monks on the end of the table. They're taking so much of the yogurt. Will there be enough in the bowl by the time it reaches my side of the table? This is so, okay, me. It's not about yogurt, but you get the idea. It's about how we're always worried we're not going to get enough. But Ben comes and he shouts, "Look at what you're doing!" Ben never seems to be crazy in these stories. I'm not sure why. I think maybe it's this monk thing, or it could be Tibetan. I don't know. But they always just take it for granted that this Geshe Ben, he yells things. And anyway, he's talking to himself again. Why are you doing this? When the bowl finally comes down to his corner of the table, he says, he's once again talking to himself. He says, "No more yogurt for this yogurt addict." So, the aha moment is when we discover for ourselves that we are clinging and grasping and able to go, wait, let's stop, let's not take the yogurt. It's fine. I will be just fine without this. So, be strong enough to say no thank you. This destructive pattern that I have of grasping is, I call it my little Grinch heart, and my husband sometimes calls it my little Grinch heart too. The change must come from within, and I can totally tell you it's a very slow process. We do the same thing over, okay, I should say I do the same thing over and over again and continue to wonder why I'm dissatisfied, why I want more. There's a reference in Buddhism about hungry ghosts, empty creatures that are never fully full. They're never full. They are always wanting, always seeking. They are ghosts, not really part of the world. They go about living, but not living, wondering what the problem is. This is such a great picture of what often is happening in my life. When a person is so consumed with wants, and if only they could live in the here and now. These desires are robbing the individual of their life. This empty feeling that demands to be filled, the constant trying to fill the void with, you can fill it in. Stuff, activities, acceptance, you name it. It can be all sorts of stuff that can fill this, be in this void. But still feeling dissatisfied at the end of the day. Where does it end? Being satisfied with enough may be a start. Concentrating on things that matter. Oh gosh. Okay. Oops. I got out of control. Oh well, so much for the ego of being perfect up here.
You lose the last page.
I did. It's hard. It's hard to recognize and change these unhealthy habits. I wish I could give you a fix-it pill. If I would take it first and then give it But the ego is incredibly strong in all of us. My hope is that by slowly changing and recognizing each one of these situations of being aware and awake, I can become a more contented person. It's little tiny steps. This idea works on good days, not so much on bad days, but it's like one step at a time on so much of this stuff. To just be alert and do not let ego and self get the upper hand. But I want to end, we are not bad. We are normal. Each and every one of us struggles with this problem. Don't beat yourself up over this problem. Recognize it. Let's go, oops, and step forward again. We can freely examine our actions and see which action leads to this sustainable contentment, and then start on that path or concentrate on those things to strengthen our actions. We begin to accept our inability to control things. We begin to accept others for what they are. We begin to be more compassionate and a more caring person. And with each compassionate and caring person, we can make a better world. I'm still working toward this goal, and I hope this talk might inspire you to be more aware of your actions and why you do the things you do. The end.